Now joining us both in studio and on Zoom to further discuss the man behind the profile, Ron Dermer, our founder and CEO of the Israel Innovation Fund and host of the JNS Wine with Adam Bellos, and ILTV's Jerusalem correspondent, Steve Leibowitz. Hello, guys. A very interesting profile. So, Adam, as the new Minister of Strategic Affairs, what's his mandate going to be?
So I think it's very interesting that originally Netanyahu wanted to nominate him as foreign minister, and there was a lot of internal disagreement in the Likud about that. So I feel that placing him in the now reborn Ministry of Strategic Affairs is just another way to allow Ron to be able to continue the work that he's been doing really for the last decade with the Prime Minister.
And Steve, it's interesting to understand what values does he go with? I mean, what is he guided by?
Ron Dermer is, first of all, he's extremely well educated. He's worked with great mentors, including Natan Sharansky, and now for the last 20 years with Bibi Netanyahu. He's a great international level strategist. The Ministry of Strategic Affairs is literally made for somebody like him. He's not an elected Likud Knesset member. I don't think it would have been wise politically for him to suddenly become the foreign minister of the country, not having been elected. But to be strategic affairs minister, closely advising Netanyahu, I think he's perfect.
And Adam, would actually him being so close to Netanyahu is really the closest man to him, as we spoke about before. What is Netanyahu really expecting from him? Not only what he says that he's expecting from him, but what is he really expecting him to do, to act like?
So one of the most interesting things about Ron is his relationship with the Prime Minister, because he's been the longest lasting confidant of the Prime Minister. I believe, from what I gleaned from my time with Mr. Dermer, is that they have a very respectful relationship with each other. And also, Ron is there to serve the Prime Minister and sees himself in the service of the Prime Minister of the State of Israel. So I feel that Bibi expects Ron to continue to be the excellent soundboard, probably, that he's been for the Prime Minister for the last 10, 20 years. I believe like their relationship restarted or started around the year 2000, like they said in the cast. I also think it's just very important to note that Ron has been in the Bibi circle for the last 20 years, like we stated earlier, and all of the major moves that have led Netanyahu to being the leader that he is and having the accomplishments that are behind him now have all been during the time that him and Ron have been working together. So I think it's very important when you're looking at the Netanyahu political machine to understand that Ron Dermer plays a very large role in that political machine. People joke that he's the mind of Bibi, and Ron will be the first one to say that the Prime Minister is much smarter than him, which I think is very funny. But one of the things, if you really study Bibi's speeches and you study Dermer himself, at least you get to a certain point where you start hearing Dermer when Bibi speaks, and you start hearing Bibi when Dermer speaks. And I think that's a testament to how close they are.
But still, you know, I mean, he's such an influential man in Bibi's life, but he's still a little bit behind the scenes, don't you think?
I think that's the way that Ron wants it. I think that Ron, like I said earlier, sees himself in service to the Jewish people and to the State of Israel. And he has such a good, open relationship with the Prime Minister. And remember, they're both very educated men. You know, they discuss political philosophy together, they discuss history together, they create strategy together. Every single meeting that Bibi had with Obama, Ron was the only other person in every single one of those meetings. And I also think it's really important to note Ron's character when talking about Ron. Ron comes from a household, his father was the mayor of Miami Beach. He tragically passed away about 2 weeks before Ron's bar mitzvah. And integrity was a huge thing that was kind of instilled in Ron at a very young age. Integrity, honesty, and if you listen to the way that even Ron criticizes his political opponents, it's very positively. So I think that Bibi very much expects exactly what he's gotten the last 20 years to be that aide that's helped Netanyahu succeed.
Very interesting. And now, Steve, I want to ask you specifically on the issue of Iran's nuclear deal. Then Ambassador Dermer orchestrated Bibi's anti-Iran deal speech against the wishes of then President Obama. Is Dermer the right man to build ties with the Biden administration, do you think?
Yeah, and I also think that this is Dermer's breakout time to actually let himself be known to the Israeli public and also on the world stage. His times behind the scenes are somewhat over. He's the strategic affairs minister. He's going to be the point man on the Iran deal issue. He's going to be the point man on advancing the Abraham Accords. And I would also say that he is the point man in making sure that relations between Israel and the United States are where they should be. Close strategic relations between Washington and Jerusalem are the key factor right now.
And just proceeding to a more personal note, both of you guys, Steve and Adam, you both know Ron Dermer really well personally. Adam, you just had a really great interview with him, and Steve, you're a longtime friend. What can you tell us about Ron, the person, the man behind the figure?
Like I said before, integrity and honesty play a huge role in Ron's thinking. You know, I remember when I sat with him the first time for our pre-interview prior to the actual interview that was on camera, and I say this as a compliment to Ron. My brain hurt after meeting with Ron, and I don't. That's not a negative thing at all. I realized when I was sitting with him that I was sitting with one of the smartest men of the 21st century, who's been around some of the smartest and greatest leaders of the 21st century. And I think that, like Steve said, this is Ron's time of kind of coming out from behind the curtain, and he's getting his public due, so to speak. I think that Israel is in great hands with him as the Minister of Strategic Affairs. I think that, you know, you hear a lot of things in the news about Ron and about Bibi because of, you know, just the way the people like to criticize the government. There was criticism, you know, internally in the Likud about his appointment. But I would say after the couple of hours that I've gotten to spend with him and kind of doing the deep dive, I can say that he's a person of like the highest moral character I've ever met.
Yes, that's a really nice compliment.
And probably one of the smartest people I've ever gotten to meet.
And Steve, wait, what's your actual impression of Ron? You have your hat.
As you notice, I've put on my hat as my other role is a president of American football in Israel. Ron Dermer is a Hall of Fame quarterback in the Israel Football League from back in the late 90s. He led his team to 5 championships. He took the team on some of its first international competitions. He's a strategist on the football field. He had a great receiver in Yonah Mishan that he could always count on. He was a fantastic player. He played with us for a number of years, and he still comes back. He was there last year for our alumni game. He's still involved with our league. And I wanted to add one more thing. He did something amazing. When he was ambassador in the United States, he went to visit the Hall of Fame in Canton, threw out a ball out there. Apparently he threw the ball furthest than any other visiting diplomat ever. But he then called Robert Kraft, the owner of the New England Patriots, and Mr. Kraft then sponsored 2 visits of some of the leading football players of all time, the Gold Jackets, people like Joe Montana and Staubach and Jim Brown and others. And Ron had the idea, and Mr. Kraft made it happen, and we were so fortunate to host them. And that was all Dermer and Mr. Kraft.
That's very impressive. Adam Bellos, Steve Leibowitz, thank you so much for joining us.